You're listening to The Talent Sync. The Talent Sync is a talent board and job sync collaborative podcast production about anything and everything recruiting and hiring. Literally the kitchen sink on how all things in talent acquisition work together, should work together, and how sometimes they don't. Now it's time to sync up with your hosts, Kevin Grossman and Leah Daniels. Today's topic is the impact of changing hybrid work and return to work. Enjoy the podcast. Hello, Leah. It feels like it's been forever. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Kevin? It has been forever.
It has,
the summer
actually.
has started. Vacations are happening.
Yes.
But the world is still spinning, so it's time.
And it's burning, but we can talk about it. And it's smoky, and it's except for where we're at, where it's nice and mild and on the coast and cool, and the sun's coming out now from the fog. But yes, it's vacation time, and it's been years in the planning, but we took the family to the UK and Ireland for a fun trip. Had to take a second mortgage on the house to pay for the trip, but we've been planning it for a long time. So it was a lot of fun. And one of the highlights, we saw lots of castles. In fact, so many castles that at the end our kids were like, no more castles, please. No more castles, Dad, and no more pictures. But one of the last castles we went to, we had a kind of a sword lesson from a guy that was, he was pretending to be a knight in the castle. Really nice guy. And he showed us some moves, some parry moves and strikes and etc. And then we did this little reenactment sword play, and then he knighted us, which was super fun. And we had these certificates, and I know it was a touristy thing, but me and the kids both, we loved it. I thought it was so much fun.
Did you get to bring home a sword?
No, we did not.
Oh.
And it was only, they were just plastic replicas for the jousting part. They weren't giving us, but he did show us some real swords that he also uses. But it was fun. It was a nice way to kind of round out the trip because we ended in Ireland, but super fun. And now we're back to reality, and there you go. What about you?
Well, in my mind, I hear Princess Bride, just so you know.
I know, right? Exactly.
I am Kevin Grossman. You kill my father. Prepare to die.
I know, exactly. That's one of my wife's favorite movies too, by the way.
Oh,
and I love it too. It's great. We tried to get the kids to watch it, but they didn't quite get into it. But it's fabulous. Fabulous.
Because they're only mostly dead.
Classic. That movie never gets old. Anyway, what about you?
Oh, we went to Maine. So you are having beautiful weather. Thank you for rubbing it in. We are here in New England having monsoon season.
I know,
which we didn't know we were supposed to have. And every week starts out with the week forecast of nothing but rain. Congratulations, it's going to rain all week. So we were up in Maine for the week of 4th of July, and we were looking at rain all week. And there's nothing more daunting than taking children into a foreign house and having rain as the
and being trapped inside.
So I say we brought everything. We were prepared. We had laser guns. We had board games. We had puzzles. We had
guns.
Devices. We were so prepared. And then what we did that was the best thing was the thing we didn't expect to work, is that we brought this game called Hearing Things, which is a whole nother thing. We wear these headphones and you try to lip read what the other people are saying and guess some phrase.
That'd be super fun.
It
my
is so
God.
much fun. The amount of yelling and giggling and laughing as people. Amazing.
What's it called again?
Hearing Things.
Hearing Things. Okay, I'll have to tell the family. That might be a Christmas stocking gift.
You just put on these noise canceling headphones. They are really good though. They're it's kind of charades, kind of lip reading, but you've got a bunch of kids in the room and it's, oh my goodness. Anyway, no one actually thought this would be the thing that would entertain everybody. And yet here we are hours later. So much giggling. I thought the Switches would take the winner there, and they were second place. But it brought me thinking about our topic today, which is around this return to work. And I was sort of giggling, thinking to myself, all these leaders are rolling in with this idea of what return to work's going to look like.
Are you going to make them play that game? Is that the deal?
Well, no, but they're probably going to be wrong about whatever they think is going to be the right answer.
Haven't they already been?
Yeah, they've already proven it.
At least the ones that we've seen in the media too, right? At play.
Yeah.
By the way, before you go any farther, there's two other related games that one is called Googly Eyes, where you have to put on these lenses that like distort your vision and you have to try to draw for the other person. So it's like a twist. Oh, it's hilarious. That's one. And then the other one that we've played before, I don't even know if we have it anymore. You put this mouth device in, believe it or not, that spreads your mouth like a dentist, and you have to try to talk.
No.
But I want to do that. Anyway, sorry, back to your segue. Go.
So we're talking about hybrid work, return to work today, right? We want to talk about what is going on in the media versus real life and how it's all playing out. And I know you did some research. I've done a bunch of research. And this all started, right? Because you and I were talking. I had a little plane ride, and I was sitting next to a young lady who was returning to Washington, D.C. because she was going back to work. And her office mandate was that she had to be in the office. And the unfortunate thing was that she had moved during COVID. And she worked for the World Bank, and she'd moved to Boston. And they needed her to be in D.C. And so she was talking to me about, does she quit? Does she move to D.C.? What is she going to do? It's a nice little stranger conversation, but it got us thinking.
Did she have a family? Does she have kids?
I'm sure she has a family. It does not seem like she had children, but she did have a significant other that was in Boston. So, she was just stranger on the plane. Let's have a little chat of, do you go back to work? And, how does that work? And it's a really good question because the return to work has been complicated. It's not, everybody worked where they worked. Everybody went home for a few months and then everybody came back. No, life moved on during those years and things have changed and shifted and expectations have changed and shifted. And now we're here.
It totally did. There has been, I don't have the specific set on this, but I know that there has been a slowdown of the employee exodus, right? And I think that's probably partly indicative of the market that we're in right now. I mean, yes, there's still resilient hiring happening in many industries and then not in others. And I think that employees have had to weigh that a lot more. So that exodus has slowed. But I think that you're right. Many people did move on, right? Whether you were a tech worker that decided to move to Idaho and not live in the Bay Area anymore, or individuals that were like, this has been working and that I've been just as productive as I was before in this particular position. And now you want me to come back to the office. Part of that, and I know because I've heard this happen before, even pre-COVID. I remember there was I won't necessarily name them because I had good friends that used to work for them, but they were a past Candy winner and participant. Big telecommunications tech company. And before COVID, some of the key recruiting team, this has always been the case for recruiting, a lot of remote folks. NTA in recruiting, even pre-COVID, I would argue. And they had a mandate to come back to the headquarters by X date, or you're going to have to look for a job. That was pretty much, and this was pre-COVID. And they, ultimately did not go back to do that. But part of what was going on at the same time, that there was some right sizing, downsizing happening anyway. And I think part of that was to kind of help self-select folks that they weren't ultimately not going to have to lay off. Potentially. I mean, I know that happens all the time in business, but you're right. I think a lot of, again, individuals, and think about women in particular, right? Because a lot of women left the workforce during COVID. They were the caretakers of their families across job types. I mean, it was a huge impact. Now that's actually surged back, I think, right? I don't know, with women, more women now back in the workplace. But, I want the flexibility, right? I want to be able to, yes, I want to see my colleagues and coworkers maybe beyond virtual, but I also want the flexibility of I take my own situation. Both my wife and I work remotely. I've worked remotely for 12 years, Leah, and not only with Talent Board, but previous to that with a solution provider that's still in our space today, PeopleFluent. And my wife works remotely, even though the organization she works for is headquartered in Santa Cruz. But long story short, we take turns. She takes the kids to summer camp or school, because when school gets back in again, and when I'm not traveling, I pick them up. We fit that into our workplace. We integrate it. We make it work. And I think a lot of individuals got used to that.
Time for a talent sync break.
Hey everybody, Kevin Grossman here, president of Talent Board and the Candidate Experience Awards. Our 2023 Candidate Experience Benchmark Research Program will open in January and run through August 31st. To learn more on how your organization can participate, go to thetalentboard.org.
Break time's over. Now back to the Talent Sync.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know if you saw this. An article came out on LinkedIn just a couple weeks ago. We had decided to do this 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, but this just came out
a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, this just came out a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was super interesting. It's from the Washington Post, and then LinkedIn kind of had an editor take it for a spin as well. And it came back to some interesting data around that, men are more interested in returning to the workplace. Women are less interested. And then they did correlate it to what we still see as a gender divide in household responsibilities, right? Women still do take on, 1.5 hours a day of childcare, house care, etc., to men's, about 30 minutes a day. That's a very big difference when you look at the data. And being female in the house, being able to keep the laundry moving, the dishes moving, the whatever it might be, and keep your world spinning and not add in that commute time, right? Because that commute time is really the difference right there. It's 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back, or longer. All of a sudden you start to see why are women leaning this way. And, as you start to think about the return to work and bringing people back into the office, are you unintentionally creating, a situation where your female employees are less interested in moving in that direction?
Well, I would argue yes.
Me
right?
too.
I mean,
so the data, the data would suggest it too.
The data would actually show that's the case. I mean, for me, I do a lot around the house. My wife still does more when it comes to childcare. I'm not gonna argue that at all. But I participate a lot and do a lot around the house, but that's not always the case for a lot of individuals between men and women, or even I don't even know what that looks like even with same-sex marriages too, right? I mean, what the difference in breaking up with that household. But the fact of the matter is, and I don't know, I mean, I've seen some data, and I don't know if you found anything for this particular talk today, but maybe I'm my own bias. When I hear that the most productive teams are those that are together, and that's when ideating is at its height, to be there in person with each other. And I think there are times when that is important. I do believe that, but every single day, it's a smoke and mirrors to me.
Well,
I think
this goes back to my beginning point, which is there's a bunch of old people that decided that the kids were going to really love these other things. The kids pick their own path. There are certain times in your career, in a job, where I think being physically together is actually very important. I would say especially entry-level corporate positions. And to be fair, Kevin, we are talking primarily about corporate roles here, right? There's lots of jobs in the U.S. market in which this isn't even at play. Although my friends at McKinsey seem to think it's hybrid work is much more pervasive, or could be much more pervasive. But you've got these folks
but not for hourly positions in the stores, plants. I mean, I don't think that's possible.
It's not possible. But their argument was like even in doctors could do one day a week at home doing paperwork or whatever it might be.
Well, by the way, that's actually not too far off the mark, because we have Kaiser where we're at Kaiser Permanente, and you can schedule an in-person visit, but you can also do a video call with the doctor, and the doctor's not necessarily always in the office. There is a movement in there, and there's a movement, which it's fascinating. This is months ago now. I remember listening to this podcast. I think it was a Planet Money podcast that NPR does. It was one of their podcasts, but it was about outsourcing fast food workers to be virtual. Like, this was bizarre. And again, I don't want to, this is kind of a little bit of a tangent, but it relates to what we're talking about.
I want to know how my fries are getting cooked. I love this.
I don't remember. I don't remember the name of the actual, it's like a sandwich place. And this was an experiment done in Toronto. It was a chain. And what they did was that there still was a human that would prep the food ahead of time, and like for sandwiches and stuff like that. But the ordering, you'd go into one of these stores and it would be a video screen. And the person would say, hey, can I help you? And it would take your order and process it. But this person was in Ecuador.
Oh, interesting.
On the video and you would ring it up and you'd pay for it and then your food would come out and be delivered because there was still somebody on site. But this is like a trend that at the time for this podcast, I haven't really heard a lot about it since, meaning, and I haven't experienced it locally in town right now. But I guess my point is that there are things you can virtualize, but there's many things that you can't. But you're right. I would argue that it's more about corporate professional hiring is what we're talking about. Knowledge workers, tech, that kind of stuff.
Although, I mean, you are seeing things like the nurse who observes all of the monitors in a centralized location, and then they deploy LPNs or CNAs out to the patients themselves. So you do see some interesting ways of trying to solve for the nurse shortage and being able to do that remote. But we are in a market where we went from a world where everybody thought the best we were going to get was, I think, 24% of jobs would be even possible remote, like 1 day a week, anything like that, any given amount of remoteness, to a world where, I think we peaked somewhere in the 40% and now we're riding right around 34, 35% of jobs have some element of remote. But the question for me is really, as companies roll in, we saw Twitter do this. We saw Amazon do it, where they just mandated everybody back to the office. And if you kind of read through the tea leaves and watch it play out, you see that they actually unwind those, right? So we saw Twitter do it. That was the big one that was very public back.
Well, then they let go of half the employees too.
Well, yeah, it was definitely a move. But then, now that is no longer a mandate at Twitter, they've relaxed that and they've allowed some people to go back to being remote some part of the time or all the time. But do people get more out of being together? And I do think that, like I said, there's some entry-level positions where I think it's really important that you have that proximity. If you think about sales or customer service roles where you can just sit there and be in a room and 7 or 8 calls are happening and you can hear it and then you can ask questions immediately versus the recording and then trying to ask that person to remember 3 days ago what was going on in their head. There is something about that I think is hard to replicate remote. I also think, though, Kevin, especially early in a business, like getting trust between a new employee and your existing, it's just harder to do remote. There's something about being physically present that helps build relationships and trust that I think a lot of companies recognize, but they don't know how to operationalize in a way that works for everybody well. I think that's the question. How do you operationalize it?
I don't know that if I totally believe, again, just to take the devil's advocate, that you actually have to, that the best way to build trust is necessarily in person. I don't know. My team has been remote for forever, and my main team we get together a few times a year. So you're right, when it comes to operationalizing and scaling that, I mean, we're a handful of people. We're not 5,000 people. We're not 50,000 people. I know that's a different scenario. I don't know how that's the case. I do know that there are moves, companies, for example, Eventbrite and others that have been part of either our Candy community or I've had conversations with them where there is that the flexibility, the remote hybrid is there, and then there are opportunities in their headquartered office where there's not necessarily physical offices for everybody anymore, but like once a quarter we have a team gathering and we bring everybody in, or you have, this was pre-COVID too. I remember there was the headset company Plantronics that has since been bought and have been moved on, was headquartered in Santa Cruz for a long, long time. And I remember going, this is pre-COVID, to their offices, and they had, there were offices, but there were also places for people who were coming from being remote or off-site to come and work, kind of like co-working space, actually, at the corporate office. So, I mean, these blends have been there for a long time. It's role-specific and dependent. And to your question about operationalizing, there are roles that have to be there all the time. But I just think that there's an opportunity for a little bit of ebb and flow. And I think about our focal strength and research that's been done over the years of, the whole idea that we as humans can multitask, which is false. And even though my wife will continue to tell me that she can.
And she's fabulous at it. But no, I mean, the reality is that and this can happen whether you're at home or you're in the office, right? Is that if you're focused on a task and you are interrupted on that task, it takes X amount of time longer to get refocused again on that task. And you start to compound that over time. And I remember the joke, the once a month when I would go to the People Fluent offices to be in person with the team. I mean, it's the got a minute syndrome. Got a minute. And it was hard. And again, I'm not saying that it
it can't work being together all the time, but it was hard to get stuff done, actually.
Time for a Talent Sync break.
Hi, Talent Sync listeners. I just wanted to share a bit about JobSync with you all. JobSync helps companies get more quality candidates out of their job board advertising and automates a variety of manual recruitment tasks by solving for the very low conversion rate challenges most companies experience on their career site. JobSync integrates your entire application, including all of your questions, directly into the various job boards' quick apply processes, providing you with fully completed applications directly into your ATS and resulting in 2 to 5 times more candidates while dropping your cost per application by half. This helps return up to 10 hours a week back into your recruiter's time through custom automations that are based on your business-specific recruiting processes. JobSync works with most major ATSs like Workday, SuccessFactors, and Taleo, CRMs, programmatic platforms, and job boards like Indeed and Zip. You can check out jobsync.com to learn more.
Break time's over. Now back to the Talent Sync.
I think the got a minute though is a little bit in that case where like you're shiny because you're only there for a couple of days a month, right? And so that's a little different than where you're more used to people. I do think that the in-person thing is oftentimes a function of, are you able to tune it out? So I have this great story. I won't reveal this person's name, but my very first sales leadership role, there was a woman who worked for me, and she put a sign up on her desk and it said office hours after 5 p.m. And
That's great, actually.
and I said to her, what is this? And she's like, if I don't do that, people interrupt me all day long and I can't get my job done. And I'm like, well, that's
right.
fair.
That's
and
true.
I was like, she's like, so what I figure is if it's important enough, they'll come back after 5 or they'll send me an email. Otherwise, it's either not important or they could have found the answer somewhere else. And I've always remembered that because, first of all, it was very astute, and 2, a little bit cynical. And she wasn't wrong, right? Like, we do things now, at least I do, where I block areas on my calendar. Like, it literally just says, GSD, get stuff done, Kevin, and get people to leave me alone for a couple of hours. And even with that, I have the got a minutes on Slack that I can ignore or, respond to later. But it is something you have to do with purpose as the employee. You have to decide that you're not going to be interrupted right now. Got a minute? No, I don't. I'm so sorry. I will have one at 5 p.m.
I think of the movie Office Space from the late 90s, which even today still captures, I think, no matter how outdated it may look, what the corporate world of working together is in an office. But the fact of the matter is, I think the more that organizations focus on the work that's getting done, is it driving our business? Are we growing and sustaining our business in a way that is, benefiting all of us? And how and where, when and where the work gets done is the part that I think that's the potential hybrid potential of it, right? The flexibility of it, of the work that gets done, because we're not sitting there for 4 hours and knocking things out. Sometimes we work on a project, we got to go take a break and come back and then answer some emails and phone calls. I mean, there's always this constant thing. One thing I wanted to bring up though, before we wrap, that I had found, which I didn't think about this, again, not surprising because there's a lot of things I don't think about, Leah. But this was a workplace culture DE&I person. As an article I found, it was a Forbes piece, but this person was talking about the benefits of the hybrid workplace actually help to reduce microaggressions.
Oh, that's interesting.
And again, I didn't even think about that. Now, the other side of that was, unfortunately, the online harassment did spike. So it kind of, I guess, it offsetted to that. But the in-person microaggressions and help to improve accessibility and increased inclusion based on the work that she has done. This person's name is Elizabeth Billy. And again, so there was a give and take there, but it's not something that I even thought about, right? Because microaggressions happen all the time, anywhere, in any environment, potentially. But I didn't think about that, right? And there's also remote work environments can be more accommodating for individuals who are neurodivergent, introverted, caregivers, the list goes on.
Just to pile on that for 1 second, I don't know if you've ever seen this study. It is significantly more expensive to be a woman than a man. I don't know if you know this. The price of even just the same things.
It's not my fault, Leah.
I'm not blaming you.
Fault.
I'm just saying, I don't know if you know this.
I actually have not thought about that, but it does. But I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
So.
I think the last stat I saw was about $1,300 more a year in basic necessities for women than for men. It's the same shirt material. The woman's will be more than the man's, right? It's deodorant. Deodorant is more expensive than men's deodorant and so forth. Anyway, I wonder, and I bet no one's done this study yet, but because we're not in the office, and so the expectation for women is, less makeup, less hair products, less time on your hair. You can wear what I learned are called soft pants, which I love this word, which is basically stretchy pants. This change in sort of what we are wearing to the office because we're in our house. I wonder if that has also had a financial impact on women where they are not having to spend as much to go to the office as they've had to in the past. Because it has been documented significantly about the cost of your hair and makeup and so forth, and the expectations that come along with that in order to get promoted or to even just sort of stay where you're at in a business. So it's
that's
another
fascinating.
One to think about,
I would love to see, man, if there was data out there about that. I'm following you on that. Do you have some data on that?
We can then juxtapose it to the fact that women make, what is it, 83 cents on the dollar? So
no, I understand, but I mean, right. But in context of all those things combined, that is not something I think that people think about on a daily basis. Like, I'm spending more on. I mean, it's obvious there are things that women spend more on in health related products that men would never have to spend money on. So I understand that too. But I mean, it's fascinating though, if that helped to offset a little bit. Because I mean, again, the numbers are showing that more women have come back to the workplace and than what had exited during the pandemic. So, or at least that's starting to offset now, right?
Interesting stuff, my friend.
It's not something, and I think we're going to continue to see the fallout from the pandemic for years to come and how the impact on business today. And I think the arguments of whether, the come back to the office mandates, the flexibility that some companies will still, I think that depending on the roles and the positions they're hiring for, and that can be remote, hybrid, flexible positions, the companies that are allowing for that will win. I don't think that they're allowing for that will win.
I mean, I think it's both too, getting more candidates, getting the best candidates, and keeping your existing employees. I mean, last data stat to throw at you, LinkedIn put some data out a few months ago. 15% of job vacancies were now saying remote. I think this was about 7 months ago. And 50% of applicants in their survey are saying they want a remote option or a hybrid option. So we are definitely seeing that the job content is no longer really leading with a remote or a hybrid point of view, and the candidates are still looking for at least the professional ones. So I think we still have a divergence there.
We do. And another thing, I hate to be a Debbie Downer to wrap this thing up, but I keep thinking about it because I keep reading other pieces about it too. There's another unfortunate economic impact of the remote flexible work as well, is that the businesses in and around metropolitan centers where headquarters have been for companies have had tremendous impacts on their business because those people aren't there anymore. Even for those that have come back, there's still reduced people in the office. I mean, I was just talking to last month back in May when we did a workshop in New York and talking about Manhattan as well as in San Francisco. And even in particular, there's many buildings are super vacant still. And that impacts the local businesses. That's a bummer, right? That's a part of it because they depended on that traffic from the individuals that had to go to the office. So that's another unfortunate.
And what's going to happen with all of these spaces over time, right?
Well, that's still coming, by the way. The commercial real estate mortgages that are coming due soon, that's going to be an interesting ripple. We'll see how much that impacts. But
and most of those aren't zoned to be able to transition them into like residential, which we need
to apartments or residential.
We really do have some interesting challenges ahead.
The fallout is for years to come. Well, Leah, this has been a great discussion as always. Always appreciate you and talking shop, as I like to call it. So until the next time.
Yes. Nice to see you and talk to you, to everyone.
Fare thee well. Yes. Thank you for listening to the Talent Sync podcast, a Talent Board and Job Sync collaborative podcast production. More episodes soon.